I've done it! This is the greatest monstrosity, and will destroy the Power Rangers! You fool, you've gone too far! Why would you ever mixture anchovies with strawberry jam and then put it on a pizza? Tomato paste is already a jam! Okay, that's not how it works!
Okay, who was the one who drank all of the milk and left the empty carton back in the fridge?
So what? I was busy plotting the downfall of Superman to replace the milk carton.
What you do with your free time is your business, but in this house, you replace things when you use them up.
Honestly, I know I can be a handful, but at least have some common courtesy for your housemates. I'll give you common courtesy and go get the milk.
You'd think that a supervillain that would have beef with literally every superhero out there would at least have some kind of table manners. I don't know how we're going to survive with all four of us living under the same roof.
What? Having some problems with the new roommate?
Oh, you have no idea. He is impossible to deal with.
But what do you expect? He's over 10,000 years old. He's been asleep for most of that, and he wakes up to people just living in his attic.
Oh, I hope you're not going to suggest what I think you're going to suggest. Well, we might be able to make him feel more comfortable and welcome if we make him part of the show.
I knew you were going to say that. You set things up. I'll go ahead and grab him.
Alright, this is My Adventures with Superman Episode 3. Baka! The episode begins in Metropolis, where we once again see that it is the most accident-prone city in the world. Seriously though, if it's not a balloon, it's an airplane, or some carriage of nuns or something in Metropolis that's about to get destroyed. And they have Superman, who comes in and saves the day once again like any goody two-shoes hero. Lois does pull up trying to get an interview out of Superman, but Superman dodges every question and flies off.
We later cut to a maximum security prison where a few prisoner guards are being assaulted by an invisible foe and his big overweight friend.
Each one of them sporting tech that gives them superpowers, invisibility, and super impact punches. With their newfound abilities, they break their third friend, a girl with silver hair, out of prison and give her some upgraded tech. Which is perfect timing because more guards show up and she's able to demonstrate her new mask's ability with a supersonic scream, which gives them the opening they need in order to get out of there. Now, before anything else, okay, let's see, the screaming bitch is obviously the Banshee, but who are the other two? Okay, here we are. Silver Banshee, Mist, and Roughhouse. They are members of the Intergang. Okay, so no A-listers, 1 B-lister, and 2 C-list Superman villains. Yeah, this one's going to be about character development, isn't it?
Wear their fancy costumes. They can't be supervillains without fancy costumes.
Actually, I kind of agree with you on this one, Ooze. While I don't agree with they can't be supervillains without super costumes, I do kind of want some kind of costume for them. Something that makes them stand out and gives them their own identity. We cut back to the Daily Planet where we see Clark Kent getting the coffee. But something weird is going on with his eyes. They turn red for a brief second, which distracts him enough to run into Lois Lane. Not that either of them are complaining. Hell, look at her. She don't need that coffee no more. She's already got her Energizer. She talks to Clark about getting the scoop on Superman, but Clark is trying to avoid her going after him at all costs. But that task is made even more easy for him, where they go into their little study room where they get hit by the 3 actual journalists of the Daily Planet. Steve Labard, Cat Grant, and Ronnie Trope, who, coincidentally, is the only one out of these 3 who isn't driven by a trope. Their boss, Mr. White, wants these 3 actual journalists on the Superman scoop, so he authorizes them to take all the information that They gathered on Superman up until this point and take it away from them to use as research for themselves.
But instead of using the information to bring her down, it only drives her forward, motivates her to get the scoop on them. And as fate would have it, the news comes on, covering the Intergang escaping from prison with their weird, strange technology.
Clark also uses this as an excuse to get Lois's mind away from Superman and onto this new weird gang, as well as helping him out with dealing with them when Superman needs to get involved. Kill several birds with one stone.
You know, this might be obvious to some people, but I really got to ask. With the technology of this universe being so advanced that they have the television and the news, as well as holograms of all the different data and sites, why do we still need newspapers?
As much as I would hate to admit it, that is actually a very valid question. The show has already showcased that it's not afraid to take artistic liberties and change the story a little bit in order to make the Superman story make more sense to a modern audience. So why still have it at a newspaper company? Why not make it a television studio? Or hell, even a journalist's blog? I know even in modern day newspapers are still a thing, but who really goes out of their way to get the newspaper and goes to newspaper to be a publisher anymore? This detail won't exactly pull me out of the story or anything, but it is something to think about. We later cut back to the Intergang, where they're excited about their new powers, as well as the new super bit of tech that they got. This weird-looking cannon-like thing that when they push a button, it fires a massive ice beam. But it quickly goes out of control and they can't turn it off. So in the end, Roughhouse ends up punching it, which causes the system to break and all the ice to immediately evaporate. But they figured that they could still use this thing for the next big job that they have planned.
We cut back to Clark Kent as him and his friends are going to investigate the prison. And when they question how they're getting in, Lois seemed to have swiped the badges of the other news reporters, so they have journal access. Good on her! That's great evil you're doing!
Unfortunately, the warden isn't as convinced, as Lois and the others put on the show of their lifetime in order to try to make it look like they are who they say they are. But the warden, who's just not paid enough for this, does give them the information that they're seeking about the three individuals who called themselves Intergang, but they haven't had superpowers before. They were just some low-level, street-level crooks. They want to press further, but the real Grant and the others arrive, forcing the three of them to run. But they soon decide to stop running and start investigating even further. They're already breaking the law, might as well continue, right?
Oh, that is good on them. I can see evil blooming in them yet.
Clark isn't okay with this, but anything to find information to keep people safe. And they do find some stuff. But before they could really analyze it, they're forced out of the prison via the escape hole that the other criminals got out of. This is a very inept prison. So they managed to regroup, and with all the information they gathered, they realized that the ne'er-do-wells are planning a heist of a great national bank.
I would be more excited about these evildoers doing evil things in the name of evil, but I really can't, because they have a god-tier superpower who just found out their entire evil plan. Would it be so much to ask for a giant monster battle or a giant robot slugfest?
A giant kaiju or a giant monstrosity from beyond the stars would make the story a lot more interesting. Yeah, but you guys are forgetting that this is when Superman is first starting out. And just from what we've seen in the past 2 episodes, he clearly does not have full control over his powers. Hell, that red eye he's been having the entire episode is starting to become a little concerning. Well, we cut to the bank, where any sense of subtlety is pretty much thrown out the window, as the 3 Intergang members charge in with the invisibility power, and then just start wreaking havoc. They use their ice generator machine to freeze everybody in a perpetual state of ice, and some of these people are dead. There is no doubt about it. Some of these people do not have superpowers, therefore they are dead.
And as they revel in their victory, here comes Clark and his gang, who they come up with a plan, where Lois and Jimmy would become hostages, which is a very dumb plan, and Clark points it out. But then we realize that Lois is trying to use this opportunity to get Superman's attention, which shuns our poor Clark, thinking that she finally gave up on it. Like hell she did. But it doesn't matter, because with a stray ice blast, Clark is allowed to escape and become Superman, and he charges into the bank in order to take on the Undergang, which is kind of an impressive fight, albeit not very high stakes, because this is Superman against 3 C-list villains. And really, it's just a slugfest with Roughhouse and the Banshee screaming. The invisibility guy barely does anything at all except activate the ice machine, where they try to fire at Superman. But the ice machine goes haywire and ends up getting destroyed, which causes a weird crystal to pop out of it, reshape itself in a weird manner, and then explode everything in a massive blizzard and ice and snow, causing everything to freeze. And I do mean everything, turning this into a city-level threat. So now it makes sense for Superman to be involved.
Okay, you might have been able to make me think that Livewire's superpowers was all technologically based in Earth-based technology. And it's clearly shown that these 3 nincompoops all have Earth-based technology with reasonable expectations and possibilities. But that super ice power source transformation that went through in order to turn into a massive blizzard, definitely not Earth-based. I don't care how advanced the technology in Metropolis is. That is alien. Funny, we also know that Livewire from this series also stole all that technology and delivered it to all the villains of Metropolis. And she stole it from Pretty Boy. But where did he get the alien technology?
You're forgetting that Pretty Boy is involved with Amanda Waller. If there's any character in fiction that can blackmail aliens into giving them high levels of technology, it's Amanda Waller. Or Batman.
So with this alien ice battery going completely haywire, Superman and everybody else is slowly getting frozen at a very rapid pace.
How can you be slowly frozen over a rapid pace?
I don't know, but they certainly are. But when everything seems to be gone and lost, Superman's red eyes reactivate, and it turns out it was his laser vision trying to bust out of the surface. And using his newfound laser vision powers, he fries the battery ice machine and causes it to explode, which triggers yet another flashback and we see robots attacking? Regardless, Superman saves the day, and all the ice immediately disappears. Convenient.
There should be some destruction.
Well, Superman got his hands on all their tech, and then the paramedics arrived, and he told them to go ahead and escort them all out. Little did he know that Pretty Boy was among them. As he finally got out, he was once again ambushed by Lois Lane, who is a little bit flustered, and she was clearly looking for Clark when he arrived. But just as she was about to get him for an interview, here comes Cat.
Not wanting to be interrupted, he takes Lois into the sky and delivers her back to the Daily Planet. Not knowing that he was unintentionally, what do the kids say? Brizzing her up. Freaking teenagers.
I think they're actually adults.
That's even worse.
So after getting her proper lady parts a-flowing, Lois finally starts asking Superman all the questions, and he's being surprisingly cooperative. Albeit, he doesn't actually answer a single one of her questions.
Well, not traditionally, because all the questions she asks, even he doesn't really know. where he's from, what he is, who he is. All he can say is that he's here now and he wants to help people. That's it. That's his only motive. And with that, he flies away, though not very far. As he returns as Clark Kent, checking up on Lois and completely abandoning Jimmy Olsen. Oh, I just realized that. Yeah, he just completely ditched him.
Oh, so much for teamwork.
Well, that's what happens when you have a love triangle like this. You're always going to have a third wheel. And when Clark asks, well, are you satisfied with your interview? She goes, yes. Although she knows full well that he's lying, which definitely takes Clark out of it. Yes, it is pretty unbelievable. He doesn't even know his own backstory, even though that is the full truth.
Giving the writers enough time to milk this for as much as it's worth.
And that was the third episode of My Adventures with Superman. Not much in terms of story progression, but an episode like this is all about planting the seeds for something much bigger in the future. This is evident by the fact that we're 3 episodes in and we're only just now getting to him shooting out his first laser beam eye. And I can only assume that this is the first time he actually did it.
And I know a supervillain team build-up when I see it. Pretty Boy has already recruited all 3 of those, whatever their names were, to his cause. What did you call them? Task Force X?
I think they're more commonly referred to as the Suicide Squad.
Oh, even better. Wait, what?
Well, normally the Suicide Squad wouldn't be a big threat to Superman, because Superman is Superman. And all the Suicide Squad right now, to our knowledge, only contains a list of B to C tier supervillains. We got Livewire, the Silver Banshee, Mist, Roughhouse. Not exactly the most powerful a bunch. But I suppose if you can get enough B and C tier list supervillains, and this is not as powerful as he would normally be Superman, I suppose there's an argument to say that they could challenge him. But right now the series seems to be very much less interested on the Superman aspect and more of the Clark Kent and Lois Lane aspect, which is adorably pretty and beautiful and lovey and puppies and kittens. But inevitably that's going to break down, and you know why? I'll tell you why, because Superman is keeping the secret that he is Superman, and you know there's going to be a fallout.
Yes, when she inevitably finds out, it's always going to lead to a meltdown.
If this is anything like She-Ra, which it has been, then it's definitely going to happen. Now, I have said that this show reminds me of She-Ra, and if it does follow similar story beats to She-Ra, then inevitably this friend group is going to have a massive crash out. But we don't know when that's going to be. And we also know that they're building up to something big. Whether or not the writers are talented enough to pull off something big, well, remains to be seen. But until then, we're just going to have to wait till the next episode. But until then, I'm Rehash.
I'm Devin Ooze, the Cypher!
And I'm Cartoon Jen. And we will see you all next time. Not that I care much, but where have you been this entire episode, Decipher?
Oh, you know, around.
And I'll take that at face value.
So, can you get me what I want?
Not a problem.